The first thing I want to do is to draw a shape that is close to my reference point, because I know where my reference point is. So if I can get this first shape right, it's really going to help me as I continue through the drawing. Okay, so what I want to do first is I want to draw in his chest. Okay, so here's what I do first. The first thing I do is I'm going to check, it's an oval, and I'm going to see how far away I think it is from my reference point, and how far away it is from my border, and I'm going to mark that about right here on my piece of paper. Now, when I make these marks, I want you to keep them nice and light. I will occasionally make them a little darker so you can see. Okay, then over here I want to mark about the same amount of space because his chest is roughly centered on the page. Okay. So right at the beginning I'm thinking something like this for the sides of his chest. Okay, continuing. Looking at my reference point, I'm going to come down and I'm going to ask myself how far away from it is the bottom of that oval. And I'm thinking it's something about like this. I like to really take my time at the beginning. If I am patient at the beginning, it's going to work out well for me. Okay, now the top of his chest is much further away from this reference point. How far away? Well, I'm going to have to guess that. And I'm going to think it's maybe something here. Okay, so at the beginning, I like to be very patient as I estimate the size of my first shape. If I mess it up, I'm going to struggle throughout. If I can get it right, it's going to work out for me. Okay, so what I want to draw now then is an oval. So I'm going to sketch in this oval here, touching the four sides, or I should say the four marks that I've made. When I sketch, I like to draw light, loose, and rough. Whatever you do, you don't want to press too hard on it. Just keep it kind of going light and loose as you go. Okay. Now, when I take a look at that, I feel pretty good about its size. I feel pretty good about its placement. I like the negative space to the left. I like the negative space to the right. So I'm confident that if I move on, it's okay, and it's going to work out good for me. Okay, next thing, head. Okay, bottom of his head is inside his chest, maybe about here. So I'm going to put a mark there. Okay, now, how far away is the top of his head? Here's the first thing I do. I'm going to come up from the chest here. I'm going to make a mark for his eye line, which is right about here. So I judge that first. There's his eye line. How far from the eye line is the top of the head? Well, I'm thinking maybe there. Okay, he's got a long, thin head. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and draw that in. So I'm going to sketch in a relatively thin oval, but I pretty much know how big it's supposed to be. So I'm going to go ahead and draw that like this here. Sketching that in lightly, loosely, careful, fairly rough, etc. I'm going to go ahead and draw a center line all the way down his head, even though I don't quite see that whole thing. He's looking straight at me, so I kind of want his head to be split in half, as you can see. Okay, now my eye line curves up a little bit, so I want to change that a little and make sure that's kind of curving up like that. Okay, now the next thing I want to add is I want to add his cheeks. Now, it's a common error for a student to make those too small. Here's how I don't do that. I look at my border, I come into the right, and I'm going to put a mark for negative space, which I think should be about right here. So I'm going to mark that. Negative space is such an important concept when you draw the size or space that surround an object. Okay, so if I tell myself that my cheek has to hit this line, it's likely that it will be right. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and draw that now. So I'm going to draw an oval, pretty much touches the side of his head like this. and it touches this line that I made right there. Okay, so there's his cheek. I think that looks pretty good, and I'm confident in its size. Okay, connectors. I'm going to add a connector right here, connecting the cheek to the head, and another connector right here as well. Okay, feeling good about that. Now I'm going to come to the other side, and I'm going to completely ignore his hand. I'm going to pretend like I can't see it. And again, I'm going to mark a negative space, maybe here, like that. And I want the cheek to go out about that far. Okay, so I'm going to draw that again as an oval, right in this area here, almost touching his head and touching that negative space mark. Try and keep these ovals basically straight across from each other. Something about like that here. Take your time. It's a big piece of paper, and we got to fill it up. Okay, connectors. Connecting the cheek to the head, like that. And connecting the cheek to the head again, right here. Okay, feeling really good about that. Now, if anything is very close to your border, it should be easy. So the next thing I'm looking at is an ear tip. So I'm going to go ahead and put a mark right under my border up here, like this. And I want the tip of his ear to land somewhere on this line. Now when I look at that ear tip, it is not in the middle. It's pushed over a little bit to the right over here. So I'm going to go ahead and estimate that. I'm going to put a dot about right there for the ear tip. So I know for sure where that ear tip is going to land at the end. Okay, then I'm going to go ahead and put a mark on his head here. This is about where it needs to start. So I want to go from here to here with a nice curving line. Okay, so I'm going to sketch this up like this. And I'm going right towards that mark like that. Nice curving line, as you can see there. Okay. Now let's notice the shape of the ear. It's a little bit skinnier at the base. It's wide in the middle and very thin at the top. Okay, so let's draw that in like this. I'm going to sketch this in. Here's the side of the ear coming up like that, as you can see there. Okay. Now many students would assume that the two ear tips would be straight across from each other. They're not. If I was to connect them, it would be a slanting line like this. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put a slanting line in there as if it connected the two ear tips. Alright, now what about that second ear tip? Where's that going to be? How far apart are they? So I think I'm going to put another mark about right there. Ear tip number 2. Okay, so these two ears are very close near the bottom here, like this close to each other, but then they spread apart, coming up more something like this. Notice that for me. Okay, same characteristic, skinny at the base, wider in the middle, skinny at the top. I'll put that in like that. Keeping your drawing rough, kind of loose, very light as you go, as it fills up this large space we have. Okay, I'm feeling pretty good about that. I'm ready to move on. I think I'll move on to a shoulder, which is a circle right here. A little bit more of it is outside his body, so I'll put in a circle about like this. Okay. Then I'm going to leave that shoulder alone for a moment, and I'm going to look at his hand. Well, notice that hand. It's a little, the bottom's a little higher than his cheek, so I'm going to go right here. very close to my border. I'm going to go right there. It is very close, almost touching his cheek, so right there. So what I like to know is how big it's supposed to be before I draw it. And then once I know its size, it makes it relatively easy to draw. And this is pretty much a circle, it's not an oval. And I'll go ahead and draw that in. Okay. Now let me show you another technique that I will occasionally use. Now if the next thing I want to do is his finger, here's the question in my mind. How tall is his finger compared to his head? Well, here's how I figure that out. So if I take this handout that I'm looking at, what I do is I put my pencil like this on the top of the finger, and I compare it. My finger should be this far above his head. So I take this line and put it over here. That way, the top of my finger is going to be the correct location compared to something else I drew. Okay, so that tells me that when I draw this finger here, this curving shape, I've got to stick it right on that line. If I don't stick it there, then it's in the wrong spot compared to the head. Alright, so there's the finger. I'll put that right here like this. Maybe a little more of a curve to it. I just want to sketch in its rough location, but I do want its size and position to be as correct as possible. Okay, then I'm going to move on to his arm. His arm slants downward. It's kind of a stick figure arm, so I'm going to go like this, slanting downward. I draw it usually longer than I need it to be. That's fine. Back to his hand, I'm going to slant it this direction, about like this. And then when I draw in that elbow joint, I'm going to check and make sure that I'm putting it about right here in this general area. So the negative space between the elbow and the border looks to be correct. Okay, good. Moving on. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is this other shoulder. I noticed a couple things about it. It's going to touch his snout here. Only a little bit of it is outside his body. Most of it's inside. And then, critically, I noticed the following. That this shoulder is a little lower than my first one. They're not exactly straight across. Something interesting to notice. Okay. Now, next thing I want to do, if I took my pencil like this and put it horizontal on my reference, I'm noticing that the elbow is directly across from my reference point. So I'm going to go like this. I'm going to take a line straight across to the left, telling me where it's going to intersect his elbow. Then I'm going to draw a stick figure line like this, slanting downward, like that. And then in this general area right here is exactly where I want his elbow to be, like this. So it's straight across from my reference point. Okay, now at this point I'm going to stop on his arm because I want to finish off part of his body before I finish off the arm and the hand. Okay, here's what I'm going to do next. So I'm going to put in this body. Now, when I look at this, here's the decision that I'm thinking of. How far from the bottom of the chest is the top of his waist? I think about this far away. Now, let me give you a piece of advice. If you draw your coyote with legs that are too long, he's going to look okay. But if you draw him with legs that are too short, he's going to look very unusual. Alright, so I just want to make sure that I'm noticing that correctly. So I think that about right here is where I'm going to draw a circle for his waist, right in here, significantly smaller than his chest. I'm thinking right about there. Okay, then I'm going to connect his chest to his waist with a curving line, like this. And another curving line like this. Okay, I think that was pretty good. Now I'm going to draw in his hand. Here's what I noticed about the hand. The hand is a heart shape. It touches his waist. I'm going to begin sketching it upward, noticing how far away it is from his chest, about right there. Then I notice the following, that the other side of the heart shape is a little higher on the page. So I'm going to draw a line that slants up just a little bit to help me get that. Now, what drawing really is, it's learning how to see things. And so the stuff I'm telling you, those are the things that I'm noticing with my eyes as I draw, that one side of the hand is higher. So I noticed it, and I'm going to comment on it to you so that you might notice it as well. Okay, here's this heart shape. Touches his waist, just under the chest, one side higher than the other. Then I can put in an arm bone that connects the elbow to the hand. Okay, moving on. Let's move on to some legs. Okay, so what I'm going to do is work here at the waist, and I'm going to draw a slanting line downward. I like to draw this line a little longer than I may need it. Here. Okay, I'm going to put in the other one also. Two slanting lines, something like this. Okay, now I'm going to carefully judge the distance from the waist to the knee, and I'm going to put that in about right here. I'm going to draw a knee. Okay, now here's another example of me noticing something. The two knees are not straight across from each other. The second one's higher. So what I do is I draw from my first knee a slanting line that slants up a little, not too much, to help me get the second knee higher than the first. It's about noticing things. Drawing is about looking, seeing, understanding the relationship of the shapes to each other. Okay, great. Lower leg. It's going to bend in, so I'm going to draw this downward at about this angle here, like this. Okay, his second leg curves in at a greater. I'm thinking something like that. Okay, draw his ankle. Now when I'm looking at his ankle, that circle, I'm checking the negative space from my bottom border. And so I'm thinking of a spot that's about right in here, something about like that. Okay, here's what I notice. Second ankle touches the first, and it's higher. Okay, so about right there. That looks pretty close to me. Okay, feet. Now, I'm going to check my negative space right here from the toe to my border, and I'm going to put a mark right there. I need the toe to land on that mark. Then, down here, I'm going to put a mark for the bottom of the foot like this, right above my bottom border. Okay, this tells me the size of the foot. Okay, so for the ankle, I'm going to curve downward, hit this mark, curve it, hit my second mark, come across, go up, and this will give me a nice, large coyote foot. Sometimes if I'm drawing some type of shape, I may want to try to find an oval within it. Sometimes it makes it a little easier for me to draw like that. Okay, foot number 2. notice that it's different. It's higher on the page. It's got more negative space below it. So I'm going to put a mark like this. This foot is a lot further away from my border. I'm going to put a mark right here like that. Okay, I'm going to draw that in, slanting downward, finding the bottom of that foot, going across and up for the top of it, finding that oval within the shape again right here, sketching it in, just like that. One foot higher than the other, they're not straight across from each other. Okay, one more thing, tail. Now when I look at the tail, here's what I notice. Look how close it is to his hand. I put a mark there. How much lower than the knee does it go? Maybe down this far. The tail is about parallel to the leg. So I just draw a line basically the same angle, going right past the knee, stopping right there. Okay. I notice the tail is skinnier at the base, it's a little wider in the middle, and it's a little thinner but rounded at the tip. That. Okay. Now at this point, I feel pretty good about this drawing. It fills up the space. It's a light and loose sketch, and I'm pretty happy with it. There it is. And so I'm ready to move on to some details.